1 second, beloved. Let me grab my laptop.
Yes, sir.
I'm ready when you are.
Peace and blessings and assalamu alaikum. This is your brother Malcolm Flex, back with another exclusive interview, and I'm live with our dear brother, Lord Abba from the Moorish Science Temple, and I'm so happy and honored to have our dear brother on. This is a brother that I've been looking up to for quite some time, watching many of this brother's videos, and I'm learning a lot from this dear brother. And so it's an honor and pleasure to have my brother on, my big brother, Lord Abba. How you doing, dear brother?
Islam, peace. Greetings to you all. Sheikh Wade L, a.k.a. Lord Abba, a.k.a. Mr. Just the Facts. I'm honored and I'm humbled as well by your introduction. And I want to start by giving all praise to Allah, the Beneficent, the Merciful. I give the highest of honors to his Prophet Noble Drew Ali. I extend those honors to the Harbinger and Forerunner Marcus Mosiah Garvey. I extend honors to every leader and freedom fighter who was sent and raised up from amongst us here in the West. Send honors. We're doing this show to the honorable, the most honorable Elijah Muhammad and his representative today, Minister Louis Farrakhan. I send honors to all true and divine prophets, and I send honors to you all, for when man honors his fellow man, he honors his Father God Allah. Peace.
Peace. Man, thank you, dear brother. Thank you, dear brother. So with this interview, I have a set of questions for you so you can answer for the people. It might take a little minute because I got some questions, dear brother. But
definitely.
Go ahead. Go ahead, dear brother.
No, I was going to say, I could give you a good hour and a half on here.
Okay, praise be to Allah. Praise be to Allah. So, well, let's get to it, dear family. Okay, first question, dear brother. Can you tell us about yourself, like who you are, where you are from, and what's your purpose in life?
All right. Everybody knows me in my neighborhood as Naheem. I was born a 5%er. My father was a 5%er. He walked directly with Father Allah, and that's why I feel that this path for me has come full circle. One of the things that my father used to tell me was that, and he said he didn't really understand at the time, was that Father Allah had more reverence for Noble Drew Ali than he had for Elijah Muhammad. And it could have been because of some of the beefs that went on. If anybody knows the early history of the Nation of Islam and the 5%ers first took root in the city of New York, then that may be some of it. But some of these teachings from the Nation of Islam, I should say, I was attracted to since birth because I was born 5%. I was actually born in Brooklyn, New York. I moved to Far Rockaway, Queens, New York. So always shouting out my hood, Hammonds Project, right. Far Rockaway, Queens. That's what helped make me and mold me into the warrior I am today. So I'm going to shout out my hood. So, you know, people can get a background of me and where I'm from. You know, how they say, ask about me.
That's right. That's right.
And as I got older, I started to question what I had insofar as the 120 lesson. I'm going to be honest with you here today.
Yes, sir.
Because that's just me, I'm out. And I was having problems with the image of Farrakhan on the back of my lessons. And it embedded this degree of doubt, because we know the story that the Nation of Islam tells is that Farrakhan was a mixture between what we would call a Moor or European, or what would generally be called a black person and white person. And so this is why he had his light complexion and his hair looked the way that it did. But it was something in my, like, as I'm speaking to you now, I could just remember the copy of the lessons that I had when I was 6 years old. And there was something about that particular image that caused me to not fully accept what it was that my father was trying to teach to me. Okay. So as I got older, I began to question certain elements of the lessons. I wrote a paper that I would distribute out in Bed-Stuy, Brooklyn, where I was living for a short period of time, which led to a book that I wrote called 120 Questions to Ask a 5%er and a member of the Nation of Islam. And that's kind of how I got myself known in I guess, the conscious world by dropping that book. I went on MySpace and I dropped the Naheem aspect of it, because everybody knows my father. Shout out to my father in the 5% Nation, the God Allah forever. And if they hear Naheem, they was going to know that it was me. I just wanted to have the debates without any of the bias or anybody hitting my father up like, you know, your son, yada, 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 yada. Right. And that's how the name Lord Abba stuck. But my 5% name was Lord Abba Naheem ever since 1998. Right. So, in the year about 98, 99, one of my brothers, because we had all been in Ohio, Columbus, Ohio, hustling. You know, New York dudes go out of town and get that paper. And one of my brothers was out there, my brother Raheem. He came back and he started talking about this Dr. York character. And I must admit that I was intrigued. I was very, very intrigued. Right. Even though some of the things he was saying sounded absolutely crazy to me, I was intrigued. So 2 years later, if you're familiar with the New York City shelter process, if you're trying to get a crib, your own place in New York City, you go through the shelter process. And me and my wife at the time, we wasn't legally married. We went through the shelter. I met a slew of people, but things wasn't going right in my pocket, so I went out of town again back to Columbus, Ohio in the year 2000. Did you have a question?
No, I'm listening to you, dear brother. Go ahead.
And I was, you know, I went out there to make money, but I spent most of my time building with my brother Rod with this Dr. York information. And he would keep me up 3, 4, 5 in the morning playing the tapes. And he was really trying to impress me, because when we were little, I made all of them 5%ers. You know, I was just telling a story the other day about the 2 Jehovah's Witness brothers, Adrian and Roger, that I grew up with. And I told them that they was 5%ers. I gave them 5% names. I told them they were no longer to eat any pork, and they don't believe in the Bible or believe in God anymore. And their parents didn't take too kind to that. You know? You know, but that was me. So my brother Rob was trying to impress me, and he did impress me with the information. And then I had a dream. The dream, I don't even gonna get into the dream, but it was so crazy, because what I seen in the dream was what I seen on a news special that ABC 7 News New York had ran on Dr. York, and it blew my mind. And I said, okay,
Wow.
Obviously, it must be meant for me to move in this path.
Right.
And I moved in. Yeah, go ahead, brother.
No. Now that's my perfect segue into asking you my next question. So, how did you become a Moor, and what is a Moor, and what is Moorish science, and who is Noble Drew Ali?
Okay, definitely, and that's where I was going, and your question definitely segues into the progression of why I'm where I'm at now, and I started to question the things in Nuwapu.
Right.
And I was like, okay, sound, right reasoning. This was the core of the Nuwapian doctrine. Sound means to be unshakable. Right is that which is correct, factually proven. And reason is basically our ability to properly discern. And that was what I took from Nuwapu. I was able to discard all of the alien and man from planet Risk talk, and I said sound right reasoning. And once I understood how to utilize those three elements, I knew that Nuwapianism wasn't for me, because there were things that weren't sound factually. There were things that were very incorrect, and there were things that could not be reasoned out with any type of facts, historical or otherwise.
Right.
And right around that time, I started to hear about, it wasn't the Moorish movement per se, but it was the sovereignty movement.
Right.
And I moved down to Georgia in the year 2007, and I started working, and they took child support out of my check. And I just thought that it was so unfair that they were taking child support out of my check.
Right.
And that started me on the process of this sovereignty or sovereign citizen movement. And then I came across several Moors who were into it. I was linked to one brother from another brother that I was building with, who was a Nuwapian. And like, when I say everything just is interlinked between these organizations, insofar as the 5%, the Moorish Science Temple of America, and even the Nuwapians, because Dr. York would transition his organization to the United Nuwapian Nation of Moors. So everything came full circle. But before that, I had received a paper, a brother that I met named Juan. I call him Obi-Wan now. He's a very wise brother from out of Brooklyn, New York. He gave me some information on the Moors in about the year 2000, 2001.
Right.
And I was intrigued then.
Right.
And I started to study a little bit, and I asked my mother, I said, being from South Carolina, have you ever heard about the Moors? And she said, the Moors. And she said, you know, Bessie, which is my grandmother, her mother, may Allah eternally bless her soul and may she rest in peace.
Yes, sir.
Used to say that we were the Moors from South Carolina. My mother said, but I never knew what she was talking about. I just always figured that it was just another last name of ours.
Right.
So now we got more full circleness coming around, and all of these things interlocking and interweaving, becoming connected. A concatenation is what, like the technical scholastic is called. And I was going through the sovereignty thing, but being a 5%er, being a Nuwapian, I was shunning religion.
Right.
So I wasn't trying to get deep into Prophet Noble Drew Ali and the whole religious and Islam. I was brought up to be anti-religious because that's what the 5%ers taught.
That's right.
And that's what Dr. York was teaching at the time when I became a Nuwapian. And so one night, I sat up late. I was like, I need to find out more information on Prophet Noble Drew Ali. It was just one of the nights where I was on a search, and it was like my oversoul, if you will, was saying, research Noble Drew Ali, and I came across his oral statements and his prophecies, and I was blown away.
Right.
Because I had never really read anything in the man's own words up until that point.
Right.
And I was completely, and I sat there, and it was about 3, 4 in the morning, and I said, this man is either as great as Dr. York and Elijah Muhammad or greater. those are my words as I slumped back in my chair after reading this man's words and his prophecies, many of which had come to pass already.
Can you give us
and that led me
as an example? Can you give us a prophecy as an example?
Okay, definitely. One of the things he said was, if the European be just, he'd have an Asiatic president and a European vice president. Of course, we get Barack Obama and Joe Biden. He said one of the things he said was, now you got to remember, he's speaking in the 1920s.
Right.
He said one day they're going to have bombs that won't miss a space as wide as your shoe.
Wow.
You're going to need basements to hide. And now, in the 1970s, they perfected what was known as smart munitions, which is your laser-guided rocket, so they can sit in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean or some ocean somewhere and guide missiles directly through your living room window with pinpoint accuracy. You know, Chicago and Detroit, he prophesied, would be doomed. And if we look at the current condition of Detroit and Chicago, I was in Detroit for about a good year.
Right.
What he said came to pass.
Right.
And many of his prophecies so far have come to pass. So it led me deeper. I got with this one group called Miracush. They were this off-brand Moorish group that they had these videos up where they were battling with some judges in court. The videos are up now called Moors in Court. Got the judge shook, I think it's called. Yeah, but those brothers lost that case. A lot, they don't talk about that part. But I got with those brothers. I became one of the heads over there. It was me and the two other brothers. And then one of the brothers got locked up, and all of the stuff that we tried didn't work. All of the things that they made these great boastful claims about dissolution of their United States contracts, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. They're the first and the only ones to do it. Their way we come to find out that all of this was false, and we were all being duped by a bunch of confidence men. And in that, I started to say, we need to get deeper into what Prophet Noble Drew Ali brought us religious-wise. There's something missing here. And that's when I started to read Prophet Noble Drew Ali's Circle Center.
So explain to us, dear brother, what more science is, because a lot of people don't really understand what more science is. So I think this is a perfect opportunity to kind of give us insight.
Yes. First, I want to preface that by saying, you have some people that say, Noble Drew Ali never taught Moorish science. Show me where he used the term Moorish science. And I go, really? And this is for any of the Moors that may be listening in, because you have some Moors that hold that,
we're gonna get to them. I got them in the questions as well. But
okay, definitely. But the organization is called the Moorish Science Temple of America. The name of our little pamphlet is called the Holy Quran of the Moorish Science Temple of America. So we are Moors. I've done the research on this. I wrote up a paper called The Moors Who Came from the Mythical Mount Meru. And although my paper deals in hypothesis, the preponderance of the weight that I put forth would be hard to refute or dispute by even the best academics in the field. At least that's my opinion on the research that I've gathered. And it is my belief, along with Prophet Noble Drew Ali, that this is our oldest ethnic name, Moor. So when you add the word Ish, you get what's known as an adjectival suffix. An adjectival suffix is a suffix that is an adjective in nature, but describes the noun. So the original meaning of Ish means people of, or belonging to a nation of. So this is why you have Irish or British, etc., etc. And so we understand that Moor is us as the individual. Moors is us collectively. Moorish is us as a collective with a lineage that can be traced back to at least the earliest known time that man walked on this earth, at least insofar as recorded history is concerned. Science is what? Science comes from the Latin scientia, which means knowledge, to know. So Moorish science simply means to know thyself. And when you open up this little pamphlet that Prophet Noble Drew Ali gave us, it says, know thyself and thy Father God Allah. And there's a whole chapter in here called Know Thyself. The whole premise of what Moorish science is about is knowing thyself. Prophet Buddha said, no one saves us. No one will and no one may. We alone must walk that path. Right. Prophet Noble Drew Ali said, I cannot save you. This is what Noble Drew Ali said. I cannot save you. No one can. But if I can just get you to thinking, you will save yourselves. And this is Moorish science in a nutshell. Right. It is the knowledge of our higher self and our lower self. Right. That our higher self is Allah in man. It represents the part of us, the holy breath, or what Christians would call the Holy Spirit or the Holy Ghost, that aspect of us that cannot die, what mundane scientists today calls the quantum or quantum element of man, that which cannot die, while the lower self represents everything that we see, including our fleshly selves that will pass away. So Moorish science is basically centered around the understanding that man himself is his highest self, and his highest self is that which is one with Allah.
Man, beautiful, brother. Beautiful. Man, that was profound right there. So now my other question, what do you think about sovereignty and the people who are pushing this agenda?
Well, I'm going to be fair at first, because I'm very critical of the sovereignty movement, and I'm going to explain why. At first, all we had was what we had. I can give you an example. My brother, good brother Wesley Muhammad, one of my favorite scholars of the Nation of Islam.
Yes, sir, one of mine.
But overall, definitely, overall, he's an Islamic scholar, overall. And one of the things in his critiques of Chancellor Williams or John Henrik Clark and those scholars of the Afrocentric ilk was they didn't have the information available that we have now. And so much of what they presented then needs to be corrected and updated now so that we're not perpetuating information that is outdated and was originally written by Christian polemics against Islam in the first place.
That's right.
This is the same thing with the sovereignty movement. When we first came in it, I know through my battles with members of the Moorish Science Temple of America that they didn't have enough information to combat most of what I was saying. And their position was just dogmatic. But Prophet Noble Drew Ali had another prophecy. And that prophecy said, one day there will be new Moors who will come in, eyes wide open, seeing and knowing, who will take you old Moors, seat you in the back, and carry out my law.
Oh, wow.
And so when we came in, we started to line by line dissect the sovereign citizen information, because we started to notice people were getting locked up. People were getting arrested and tased and beat down, remanded in court.
Wow.
And sitting month after month after month. The very brother from Marrakesh that I was with, he sat in there for a year, which means that none of that stuff worked. And so, in seeing that it didn't work, it caused us to cast a critical eye upon it and dissect it to see what was wrong with it. And everything was wrong with it. So everything, we put the research out there so that others coming up would see that this whole sovereignty thing is not the way to go. Prophet Noble Drew Ali understood our sovereignty as citizens of a sovereign nation or sovereign polity, such as the United States of America, whose rights are enumerated in the Constitution of the United States of America, more importantly and more specifically in the 10th Amendment of that same Constitution, which I urge you all to pull up and read right now.
So why do our brothers say that America is really Morocco, and black people, well, people who consider themselves black people are not considered citizens of America because we have no status?
Well, they're misinformed, unfortunately. America, the reason why they're saying that America is Morocco, which is completely asinine, it's just completely asinine. But the reason why they're saying that is because we are looking for a way out. We feel oppressed. We feel economically insecure. We feel financially disabled. We do not feel that we can ever reach the higher and upper echelons in American society. And so when a doctrine like the sovereign citizen doctrine comes along, we, many of us in a state of indigency, poor, we have to have something to cling on to, something that gives us the semblance of power. We make up, in the same way you have Americans, just average, normal Americans, European or otherwise, who make up conspiracy theories to feel secure in their Americanism, is the same way we made up things like Morocco is America, and America is a corporation like Wendy's or Walmart. And so we are not citizens. We are not subject to the jurisdiction of the United States of America. All of these things are antithetical to what Prophet Noble Drew Ali taught and brought us.
So he didn't teach that?
No, Prophet Noble Drew Ali didn't teach any of that. Prophet Noble Drew Ali was teaching that we have fallen from the constitutional folds of government. And he put out a call to all true American citizens to help him help us get back to that stage of being tied back into the constitutional fold. I have a show on my channel. If any of you want to hear me break it down, it's called, my YouTube channel is called Lord Abba TV. And the video is called We Were Citizens from Day One. And I break it down, A to Z. Everything that we were taught. Dred Scott decision, for instance. Justice Taney was a racist from out of Maryland. 6 other justices were also racist that sat on the Supreme Court bench. They cared not about the rule of law and their duty as judicial interpreters of the Constitution of the United States of America. But there were 2 justices who did and were, Justice Curtis and Justice McLean. And Justice Curtis laid out in no uncertain terms that our people were in fact citizens at the very outset of this nation, and that in at least 5 northern states we voted the representatives who thus ratified the Articles of Confederation, who then ratified the Constitution of these United States. We have shown evidence from the congressional record where northern politicians are debating southern politicians whose desire was to keep us enslaved, pointing this out to those Southerners who had absolutely no rebuttal. It's in the congressional record. I have that on my Facebook wall. I don't have that pulled up right in front of me. Hit me up on Facebook, Naheem Wayel. I'll be sure to get you anything, any bit of information that I speak on tonight. One of my AKAs is Mr. Just the Facts, and I'll just deal in the facts.
Yes,
we're wrong, I'll correct myself.
So what are your thoughts about our dear brother Taj Tariq Bey when he called brothers and sisters who are descendants of Africans traitors? What are your thoughts on that? Because that kind of rubbed me the wrong way. I'm like, you know, I know my ancestors were slaves, you know, so how can we be traitors?
Well, your ancestors weren't slaves; they were enslaved.
Okay.
I try to correct that way of thinking with them. No. I try to correct that way of thinking in myself that our ancestors were not slaves. There was a period in the briefest of moments of our history that we were enslaved.
Great point.
But what I feel about Taj Tariq Bey in general is that and I just have to be blunt.
Real quick, dear brother. Let me make a disclaimer. I'm not throwing this out there so we can, you know, bash the brother or because the brother's not here to defend himself. But I just want to just your thoughts on that based on what the brother said, because to me it just didn't come off right to me. So, but there's no attack on the brother personally. I'm just curious to know.
I'm not attacking the brother personally. I'm giving my own fair, honest critique. He was wrong, just to answer your question. But just people like Taj Tariq Bey in general, they're the reason why so much confusion is going on within this Moorish movement because of the very things that he teaches, which is nothing more than European, Euro-American spawns of the Southern Confederate right-wing conspiracy theorists, i.e. fascists, i.e. United States rebels. These were the people that rebelled. Let's get to a point. Let's segue. Taj Tariq Bey teaches about 14th Amendment and 14th Amendment citizenship, which is what the sovereignty Moors teach about. And they try to use Prophet Noble Drew Ali, where Prophet Noble Drew Ali says that the 14th and 15th Amendment was not necessary for the salvation of our people. Right. But what they neglect to do is go on further in what Prophet Noble Drew Ali taught about these two amendments in particular. And that is that the 14th Amendment was what brought the South back in union with the North, because the South had seceded and they were without constitutional power. And if you do your due diligence, in most of the states and places like Louisiana, where the Southerners had lost their power, Moors, our ancestors, took these seats. There's a whole history. My brother Zachary Grimion has done masterful research in this field. And I want to give a shout out to my brothers while I'm on here. My brother Ali Bey, who's another masterful researcher, and my brother Charles Ware L as well. And shout out to all of the Moors that I personally rock with.
That's right.
But this idea that they espouse that people are 14th Amendment citizens and trying to use Prophet Noble Drew Ali's words is false, because if the 14th Amendment had no power, it would not have been able to bring the South back in union with the United States. The 14th Amendment is an agreement that the Southerners had to abide by, that all persons born here were citizens, period.
Right.
So that particular aspect is misconstrued, and many are misled by it.
Right.
As I was saying about Dred Scott, that decision with Dred Scott, nobody's read the dissent. They're running with what Justice Taney said, but nobody read Justice Curtis or Justice McLean's dissent. And then you have people that say Dred Scott was never overturned. I heard Polite say that so many times. And I'm like, we're parrots, repeating it. We're not using any scholastic methodology whatsoever. And if you just research Dred Scott's case in its entirety, you will see that the Civil Rights Act of 1866 was the first piece of legislation that overturned Dred Scott. Then the subsequent ratification of the 14th and 15th Amendments, because you cannot legislate from the bench.
Oh, that's beautiful. So let me ask you this now, dear brother. What do you think of those who critique Islam and say that Islam enslaved Africans and promote pedophilia? And did Moors take place in the slave trade?
Well, there are groups out there. I'll call them all out by name. Amin Ra Squad, the Sinetta crew. I'll call them the Sinetta crew. Because no matter how much information you show them, they still gonna drop it. I done been on Sinetta show so many times. Sinetta still gonna make the same exact claim. So it gets to the point to where what you say doesn't matter on those platforms. They're wrong. They're wrong. Islam doesn't enslave anybody. And they cannot show me this in the Quran of Mecca, particularly to the Hebrew Israelites who are now trying their best to do battle with Islam, but they will not debate any Islamic scholars on the topic. But I can go to the Bible and I can point to Genesis 9:25 through 27, where it says, "Cursed be Canaan, the servant of servant shall you be unto your brethren." Prophet Noble Drew Ali comes on and teaches us what? This is what Prophet, and I've done the research, and that's going to be the next paper that I drop is going to be on the Moorish, the Canaanite, the African ancestry, or the Canaanite ancestry of the Africans, excuse me. Noble Drew Ali says this in chapter 48, Egypt, the capital empire of the Dominion of Africa. He says the inhabitants of Africa are the descendants of the ancient Canaanite from the land of Canaan. Old man Cush and his family are the first inhabitants of Africa who came from the land of Canaan. His father Ham and his family were second. So you have many people that have issues with that, but I've given them the scholarship and they've rejected the scholarship every single time. But I wanted to read that to show Prophet Noble Drew Ali comes and relays to us a portion of the history that we did not know. And that is that we are the ancient Canaanites. This tradition can be found among many oral tradition and in some cases written tradition, African civilizations. Brother Wesley Muhammad, mention him again. He wrote a paper, what year was that? 2015, I believe it was. 2015, 2016, it could have been earlier. Ife and Islam, sibling, Ife, Allah and Olodumare, Ife and Islam sibling rivalries. And in that particular paper, Dr. Wesley Muhammad touches on the Canaanite origins of many of the Yoruba tribes and the Hausa tribes who have certain ancestral connections. And these people call themselves or claim that they descend from ancient Canaan. So when the Bible says, "Cursed be Canaan," although it was Ham that went in the tent, why would Noah, number one, have the power to curse anybody when he was laying in a drunken stupor, butt naked? One. Number two, why would he then curse curse Canaan, Ham's fourth son for coming? Why skip over Ham's three other sons and only curse Canaan? Prophet Noble Drew Ali comes and gives us the master key to unlock so many elements of the misinformation and ahistorical aspects. Let me get to the other part of your question. Yes, were Moors involved in the slave trade? Because you have these guys that have made these videos, and they're showing pictures from the 1800s. Yes, the transatlantic slave trade, I mean, come on. We're talking about the 1600s, 1700s, right? early 1800s.
Right.
Now, the Belgians had took over the Congo. They colonized Congo.
Right.
And they would recruit many from the region. Many of them were non-Islamic people. The Force Republic, I believe is the name of this army, the Force Republic. There were other mercenaries as well that the British would contract with and pay. And they were called Askari, or Askari mercenaries, Askari. And part of the uniform of the Force Republic and Askari mercenaries that were given to them by these Europeans, namely the Belgians and the British, the Brits, were a fez and a Western-style military uniform. So what ill-informed, ignorant brothers like Sarah Suit Seti and Young Pharaoh and the rest of these guys, Sarnetta posted that picture, showed me that picture one time I was debating with the Hebrew Israelite, and he tried to do his shock value thing like he always does.
Right.
You know, them guys are anti-Islamic. It shows that not only are they ignorant of the history, they're ignorant of the methodological process that goes into correctly displaying the history. They're ignorant to the other side of the scholarship. One of the main critics in the Afrocentric circles of Islam, the God killer,
right,
as he called himself, right? We was on the phone one night, and Sarnetta calls me. This was before the award show, and I was, you know, I started going in just because was on the phone, and I started to name the books that I have. Because I was telling you're a one-sided scholar. You don't know the other side of Islamic research. I know what you know. You don't know what I know, and I will cook you in the debate. When are we going to get on? So, of course, Sarnetta being the Don King, he tried to set it up, and backed out. Right. First, it was just complete silence, and he backed out. These guys do not want to face us when it comes, and I can't be mad that Wesley fell back. Mad is not a proper word. It's like when Wesley put out so much information, but my thing is, I would have liked to have, because he's way more preeminent in the field of Islamic studies than I am. I mean, he went to school for it. I'm an autodidact. I just study on my own. I would have loved to have seen something. Say that again, beloved.
No, I said you're a what? You said you used the word, but I don't think I ever heard it.
Oh, autodidact. Basically, I'm self-taught. Okay. And so far as any of these areas, because I may read something even from my brother Wesley Muhammad, and I'll start vetting the sources and the research and say, okay, the way he framed that wasn't the way I would frame it in regards to such and such. And I'm just using that as an example. But to my point, I would have loved to have seen Wesley have like direct sit downs with Ankh and Sanjetti and those guys, although he had the debate with the brother Mukasa Africa, completely cleaned him up. Right. It was as if that debate never happened. Right. When Wesley Muhammad did the lecture, The End of Ghetto Scholarship, it's as if that lecture never happened. That's why I put it up on my channel, because people need to see that. I start naming other books that I have. The Archaeology of Islam in Sub-Saharan Africa, which unequivocally proves that there was no invasion of West Africa by Moors, no invasion of West Africa by Islam. Sheikh Anta Diop notes this in several of his works. I have another book, Egyptology, The Missing Millennium, by Okasha El-Dali, which delves into this supposed 1,000-year gap between the scholarship of Egypt and in modernity, meaning modern scholars, there was a lapse of 1,000 years. Well, Okasha El-Dali fills in that gap with research that Western society had either rejected or ignored.
Right.
And once I start naming these things and we start to see how early Islamic civilizations began to synthesize Egyptian thought and some of the hadith of that time about what Prophet Muhammad was saying.
Right.
I'm getting something on my end that says poor network connection. I don't know. Am I coming through clear to you?
You good. You good. We can hear you and everything. You good, but
okay, cool. Definitely. So he fills in this gap. Ankh didn't want it. And a lot of these guys that make these claims don't want it. And I think that the Moorish Science Temple of America and the Nation of Islam need to be fighting on a united front.
Right.
But I'm going to say this. I know you got a bunch of questions and I'm kind of flowing, but I want to get this out.
Yeah, get it out.
Because we can't deny that there is some form of rivalry between the Moorish Science Temple of America and the Nation of Islam. I grew up 5%, and I heard my whole life that Farrakhan was the one that brought Islam to our people. In the book written by Elijah Muhammad called The Flag of Islam, or I don't know if it was directly written by him or if it was written by someone who was transcribing his speeches, Elijah Muhammad says that it was Farrakhan who first found us, and it was Farrakhan who first made a nation out of us, and Farrakhan who first gave us a flag. These things are not true. And there is a rivalry there, but we can debate. Like, I can do videos on my channel where I excoriate the Nation of Islam if I choose. But while I do that, Prophet Noble Drew Ali said we shouldn't speak radical of any organized religion or any organized group, while you have brothers like Ben X, who is a YouTube social media sensation, who has come out and put videos on his YouTube channel disparaging the Moorish Americans and the Moorish movement and refuses to speak with any of its scholars or historians, instead opting to go with people that do not represent this Moorish movement at all. They represent the Taj Tariq Bey types and the sovereignty stuff, and he brings them on his channel so that he and his audience can laugh at them.
Let me say this, because upon initially speaking to you, you know, I learned a lot just based on what you just said. You know, as far as, you know, those that you have those Moors who may not be astute or knowledgeable on the Moorish science, right? And as you know, that might just be pretending or posing, you know, and probably be getting that brother Ben X, you know what I mean, and be saying certain things to make him do the videos that he do, because I'm pretty sure an individual like you know, wouldn't be trolling, brother. But you know, you have people on both sides who claim to be who claim to be a Nation of Islam or MSTA, but they trolling other brothers and sisters. You know, so I personally think, you know, that was brothers. Like, you know, the video that brother did, you know, where he talks about, you know, the Moor brother getting mad because a brother is using the word black. You know what I mean? He basically was like, well, you know, I ain't gonna help you because you ain't calling yourself a Moor. So I see what
that video. That video was very distasteful, but I understand what you're saying.
Yeah, yes, sir. You know, so I definitely see where brother is coming from, but I also see where you coming from as well. You know, and Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan always teaches us that the only way for us to put our petty differences aside is we got to confront one another and talk about it. You know what I'm saying? We got to deal with the issues that we may differ on. You know what I'm saying? And handle it like men. You know what I'm saying? And that's how we take care of that.
And that's true. and I offered to come on with the brother, and the brother refused and ignored me. And then more recently, we just had another spat about 2 or 3 weeks ago, whereas he offered some other brother to come on in a way to slight me, right? And the other brother didn't know really too much about the movement. He just said he had been in for 6 months. I've been in this thing since 2007, 2008. So it's like you can have that position. But what Farrakhan did, that's why I sent you the link to that particular video earlier, where he spoke glowingly about the Moors. And right. I try to walk in the footsteps of Prophet Noble Drew Ali, who urges us not to speak radical about any organized group. And so I do not speak radical about the Nation of Islam. I have my debates with them, and I'll probably have many, many more debates with brothers from the Nation of Islam. But I'm not going to make a video, a distasteful, immature video, trying to step on the Nation of Islam in a way that it builds up and boosts up what I'm doing. And I believe that that's the intent of the brother. And even after having an interaction with myself, I try to see the Islam, or connect rather with the Islam within a person, because once we get this Islam within us, it does something to us. It begins to recalibrate our mind and our soul and our way of thinking. And that's how I know where people are along the path. I don't care what branch of Islam that they're in. When I try to talk to the Islam within them and they put their own egos in front of that Islam, then I know that this person is not what they say that they are. And at that point, doesn't even seem to be aspiring towards that goal.
And let me say this, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, he gave us a study guide called Self-Improvement, the Basis of Community Development, and he always teaches us to go within self, and I remember, just recently, he did an interview, well, not just recently, but just recently I saw an interview with him and Mike Wallace. And basically, Mike Wallace was asking him the question, about him hating Jews or whatnot. And the minister was basically saying that I wouldn't, if I speak out and say certain things that might be offensive, I will never know that what I'm saying is wrong unless we sit down and dialogue. You know what I mean? Unless we actually have a real sincere conversation about it, and you point out, where I was wrong, and then we'll deal with it in that fashion. In my young brother's defense, he is a young brother. He's younger than me. I'm 31 years old. You know what I mean? I believe the brother may be like around 24, 25, 26. So I don't think that the brother has any ill feelings toward our family in the MSTA, but I can see where it can be taken the wrong way. You know what I'm saying? I can see where it can be offensive. You know what I mean? And so I would just encourage, a dialogue between the two. Maybe I can possibly reach out to the brother in some way, some shape or form, and we can make it happen behind closed doors. It don't have to be live out so everybody can see it, But I think that if you have a legitimate issue about this situation, I know it ain't personal, but if it's legitimate, I think that there should be some dialogue.
Yeah, I mean, it's not personal, but when we have to already deal with the European,
right,
who's writing negative articles about us every time some sovereign citizen nut job does something crazy, they try to throw Prophet Noble Drew Ali's name in the mix. And then we have to deal with the Afrocentric guys who are, to me, they're proxy agents. I don't use that term, so I say proxy agents. They work for the European without knowing that they work for him, and trying to tear down and destroy our reputable organizations. And then I have to deal with a brother making videos like that, especially leaving detailed comments that what you think about the Moorish Science Temple of America is not true, and it has no partnership with Prophet Noble Drew Ali or his teachings, and you choose to ignore that and keep trying to pile on. It's not personal, but it becomes an issue.
Oh yeah,
and issues should be addressed.
And you know, we all should reflect our teachers. You know what I'm saying? Sweet spirit.
Right.
You know, and
Right.
some of us, you know, including myself, you know what I'm saying, we still babies in the faith, in the deen. You know, none of us are perfect. You know, there's some times where I gotta get a phone call and people gotta put me back in line. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
you know what I mean? So I definitely think and believe you two brothers are very good and sincere brothers. You know what I'm saying? It just needs to be some dialogue to just, you know what I'm saying? So both sides can understand where each other is coming from. That's it. But I do want to ask you another question, dear family. Move on right quick.
Definitely.
What's the state of the conscious community in relations to the whole Asiatic? I'm going to slow down. What's the state of the conscious community in relations to the whole black community? And what are your thoughts on Sinetta TV?
I mean, I'm gonna start with Sinetta TV. Sinetta TV is a double-edged sword. I watched Tommy Sotomayor on there the other night,
Yeah,
and you watched that. It was masterful. I thought that his breakdowns were masterful, to be honest with you. And I appreciated that show. But overall, most of the people that come onto that particular platform, I mean, they're just a bunch of haters.
Right.
It's just, it is what it is.
Right.
And it doesn't help that Sinetta is biased. And I'm not just saying this because me and you on the camera. Somebody could send this to him, he'll see it. I'll say it to him all the time. You biased. You don't like the Moors, you don't like Islam. So anything connected to the Moors you don't like, which is Islam, and anything connected to Islam you really don't like. Whether it's the Nation of Islam or, you know.
I've heard the brother, you know, kind of defend the minister and the messenger before.
I was just about to say that. He's been defending Farrakhan lately. So, I mean, but that to me doesn't mean that he's personally softening his stance on Islam.
Right, okay.
At all. He's just defending, you know, just like that's one of our elders, and that's the way he's taking it. Farrakhan is one of our elders, which is true.
Right, makes sense.
But the Asiatic community, I view all of our people as Asiatics.
Right.
Asia is an orientation, which just means eastward. So if we're pointing to Africa, and Africa is in fact east from here, and we came from that direction, mainly from the African mainland, then it is contingent upon us to recognize that fact that we are Asiatics.
Right.
And a lot of them won't accept that because of some Europeans who wrote in a book that may have been copied by their favorite Afrocentric scholars, that people from the East went and invaded Egypt, and the European writers gave them the name Asiatic. So they reject the term.
So let me ask you this. Is more the term more older than Asiatic?
I would venture to believe so, yes. I just believe Asia is an orientation. It's possible that it was the name of a land. I've seen some proposed etymology on the term, but as of what I have now, it's just an orientation. Like Levant is an orientation, or Oriental is an orientation. These three words basically have the same meaning. Eastward from the place of the rising sun.
Okay. Okay. So back to my question though. You know, what's the state of the conscious community in relations to the overall Asiatic or black community?
Well, that group of people they represent 0.00001% of the overall Asiatic community if we're speaking specifically of the United States of America. Okay. Their voices are inconsequential. We have to be honest, because you got elections going on right now, and you have many of these so-called conscious people that are saying we shouldn't vote. Meanwhile, the same racists and bigots keep getting elected office, and not policing the police, as Jefferson said, we're not going to police the police, and are putting in policies that are blatantly racist. And because we're not voting, and we are influencing maybe 10 people a piece, and you got Hebrew Israelites saying the same thing. You got some certain factions in Islam. You got 5%ers. I'm debating with 5%ers and members of the Nation of Islam who say that we shouldn't be voting, et cetera, et cetera.
And that's funny, because I was going to ask you that, but since we there, what's the importance of voting?
Well, voting is a democratic process. And by that I mean we elect representatives to represent our issues and try to fix our issues or by way of the federal government. Prophet Noble Drew Ali endorsed several politicians, one of whom was Oscar the Priest, who was one of the first quote-unquote black congressmen elected into office after all of our people were kicked out of office after the 1877 compromise, where the Democrats agreed that they would let the Republican take the presidency insofar as the Democrats could basically run the land, and this was before the ideology switch. People get that part confused. The right wing was the Democrats then, and the left wing were the Republicans. And this is when the Klan formed, and the White Knights, and all of these other different race soldiers bearing their Christian crosses. And one of the things that they did was they threatened us to not vote. I gave this example. I went live. Well, I recorded a video. I said this, right?
Yes, sir.
Let's take a tour in the 1920s. Let's go to Florida, where they had many free towns of people of African descent, citizens, law-abiding citizens, tax-paying citizens, because we're paying taxes. If you're paying taxes on anything and you're not voting, you're a fool. Taxation without representation. That's just my opinion, but you are feeding a machine, a beast that you claim is oppressing you.
Wow.
And you're letting them oppress you because you're not doing anything to stop them from getting into office. But let me give my scenario.
Okay.
So you have free Asiatics in Florida. They don't know themselves as Moors. They know themselves as blacks, Negroes, Africans, whatever name that were popular at that time, Ethiopians, etc. But they're free. They have their own land. They engage in the commerce of the state of Florida and their local municipality. But now election time comes around.
Right.
And you got one racist candidate. And this racist candidate is hell-bent on taking the land from these quote-unquote Negroes.
Yes, sir.
And appropriating it and ceding it over to his constituents because they feel that the Negro don't deserve any land in the first place.
Right.
Well, you have the other candidate who's the progressive, the liberal, the Republican at the time saying, no, that's not the American way. So you may have the town that feels that the Negroes should keep their property. They ain't bothering us, we're not bothering them. And you have another half of the town that says, well, I want to take the Negroes' property because they shouldn't have nothing. Well, what happens is you got a 50-50 split. Who's going to sway the vote? The so-called Negroes in that particular town. And who are they going to vote for? They're going to vote for the person that says, I'm not going to let them take your property. So what these racists, these bigots, these race soldiers did was went out and mutilated, slaughtered, killed, maimed our people, hung them, and hung signs on them that said this nigger voted, and placed a fear within us that persists till this day. So it's not that we're scared to go to the polls now. It's that the fear that was implanted in us at that time on why we didn't want to go to the polls, we still hold the sentiment without the aspect of the fear of getting killed, etc., etc. Voting is very important to us. And this is why the conscious community, to further answer your question, is dangerous to the overall plight of our people, in my opinion, of course.
Okay, well, let me ask you this, because we have a viewer who has a question for you. I'm gonna get their question out the way first, and I'll ask mine. This question is from Aku Freeman. How was the word more pronounced in the original tongue?
There's no way to answer that question.
Okay. All right. All right, let me finish asking you my question. So what do you think about young Pharaoh and Sarah Seti going around and attacking other conscious groups and religions?
They're cowards. They're cowards. I've been calling Sarah Seti out to a debate for years. We spoke by phone several times. He's a coward. Okay. Sarah Seti and young Pharaoh, anybody that can sit behind, it's like Trump won't give CNN an interview because he knows that CNN is going to ask him questions that he doesn't want to answer, because he's going to implicate himself, especially in light of the ongoing investigation. So if young Pharaoh or Sarah Seti had the gumption to get on a platform like this with me, they would get schooled. Not just me, a brother like Wesley Muhammad, and other brothers who are sharp in the history of Islam. In my case, it would be not just the history of Islam, it would be the Moorish history as well, because they keep clinging on to these false notions that the Moors were complicit in the transatlantic slave trade, because that's just what our people do. And that's why people like young Pharaoh and Seti have a broad audience, and they can drop a video and get 40,000 to 50,000 views in 2 or 3 days, because our people, as Elijah Muhammad said so eloquently, they are easily led in the wrong direction and hard to lead in the right.
Right. Yes, because they've made a few videos about the nation and the Moorish Science Temple, man, and basically saying that Islam is a religion of pedophilia and a gang of madness, dear brother. And a lot of their claims, I did videos as well to counter those claims, to rebuttal a lot of those different claims, dear brother. So why is it necessary that the Nation of Islam, the MSTA, and other groups who share like minds unite? Because the Honorable Elijah Muhammad teaches us that our unity is more powerful than an atomic bomb.
It's integral that we unify, but we live in a society, and I don't want to just blame it on American society. I believe that this is a human trait. There's in our lessons, and I want to segue, I try to teach in between my answers, so just bear with me.
Yes, sir.
In our lessons, Prophet Jesus is building in India with a man named Bharata Araba. And Bharata Araba, he's going in. And he's going in, he said, man was once mine, who was formless bit of protoplasm that turned into a fish, that turned into a bird, that turned into a beast, and then finally turned into man. And he's going in. And when you're reading that, it sounds dope.
Right.
But then after he finishes, Jesus says, who told you that man that is mine is beast, bird, or living thing? And Barack Obama's answer was, our priests since early times have told us, and so we know. And Jesus says, Barack Obama, are you a mastermind and knows not that man knows nothing by being told? That if man would know, that he must be that which he knows? And then Jesus begins to school him. This is what's happening with the world. I can create I say this all the time. I say, if I was a cult leader, if I ran with a bunch of conspiratorial, ahistorical information,
right?
It's crap, right? If that was the platform, I would be so large. I would be young Pharaoh.
Right.
I would be polite. Or Ali Muhammad is fading out of existence. But I would be these guys who teach pseudoism, who are pseudologists. Their practice is in, and their study is in pseudoism.
Right.
And they sit there. That's right. And they, as our lessons say, they huggeth themselves in their own cunning. And they say, oh, I can't wait to drop this on the people. I can't wait to drop this. They don't. I was just young Pharaoh. Somebody sent me a video. I clicked on it briefly. And he said, anybody who votes is idiots. And you read the comment section, everybody's agreeing with them, right?
Right.
But in the video, he's saying a bunch of crazy things. He says the word democracy means demon rule by a mob or something like that. So I just went, anybody can just go right online, www.etymon.com, and pull up the etymological dictionary, which I researched the website. It's composed of 72 different sources, and simply punch in the word democracy and see that democracy just simply means of the people. Right. And it doesn't mean ruled by a mob of demons.
Right.
But it is something within human nature that causes us to latch on to things that just sound too good to be true. I haven't personally figured that out. I study psychology. I study philosophy. I can give my own theories as to why, but so long as people like that have an audience, and so long as there is information out there that contradicts their truth, or well, their facts is not truth, their facts, but they have the majority, then those of us who represent the truth are going to remain the minority unless we start getting up in people's faces, and that's what I plan on doing.
Yes, sir. Man, a beautiful answer, dear brother. Beautiful, and you taught me a couple of phrases. One like confirmation bias. Can you break that down for people? And there was another one, Kruger or something, that you broke down to me.
The Dunning-Kruger effect. Well, confirmation bias is let's use in the Sanjettis and the Afrocentrists of the world. We'll use them as an example. Will have 10 books sitting on his desk. And all of his books will have the same anti-Islamic polemical references. Lepsian, and there's a whole bunch of them that I could call. I mean, I can't call off the top of the head right now, but I got all this stuff in my notes. And Unc will go and open 10 different books and say, see, this author says it, put it there. This author says it, put it there. This author says it. So then you corner Unc and he says, okay, they're all saying that, but where are they getting it from? And once you trace the source of anti-Islamic, and I'm using this as an example, then we see that it started with converts from Islam into Christianity who were first Jewish before they ever even converted into Islam.
Right.
So now what I'm doing, or what people like Ankh is doing, right? And when I say I was just speaking in general, let me not do that. What people like Ankh is doing is confirming his own bias by citing those authors that only harp on one side of the scholarship, which is one of the reasons why he will not, many of them will not have a debate with myself, because I have the other side of the scholarship. Right. And they've never read it, they've never analyzed it, they don't know how contemporaneous it is with the time period. They don't know anything about it. Right. So to avoid themselves the embarrassment and to keep stepping on Islam, they will continue in what's known as confirmation bias. Now, the Dunning-Kruger effect is, let's use another example. Brothers like Polite.
Right.
These are people of low ability. And these are people that believe that they are so smart. One of Polite's name was the Supreme Grand Apperception. I was like, what? I gotta laugh at that. I'm sorry, forgive me. But I gotta laugh at that. Right. And I looked up the word apperception, and it meant something to the effect of having supreme understanding and etc., dealing with a supreme understanding, high wisdom. Right. And I'm listening to him, and I'm like, I don't know what people are hearing, but I hear the guy from In Living Color, Oswald Bates. That's what I hear when I'm listening to the brother. Right. He just can string his words together in such an articulate fashion and throw in a big word here or a big word there that it sounds like he's actually saying something. But to those of us who know, who are grounded in actual sound, right reasoning, we're sitting back and we're listening with our lips twisted up like, nah, dog. Right. we see right through that. Right. And so this is the Dunning-Kruger effect, which is what's going on in the conscious community with all of these conscious stars that we see pop up, the Nature Boys and the Polites. Man,
what you think about that whole situation, man, with him and young Pharaoh, man? And Pharaoh was basically like, man, you come to New York, I'm going to down you, man. What are your thoughts on all that?
I mean, a lot of these guys are, I've seen some of that stuff. We are a people that suffer from acute mental illness, and it's masked. The Dunning-Kruger effect is, when you analyze the Dunning-Kruger effect, and I urge everybody to go to Wikipedia to look that up. Wikipedia is not good for historical research, but for things like general definitions and breakdowns like what I'm talking about now, it's perfect. And there's a series of links that you can click on when you go to the Dunning-Kruger effect and analyze the people in the conscious community. And you'll understand not just the people in the conscious community, just America in general. And many of us are suffering from mental illness. And when I see people like Nature Boy and Young Pharaoh, and it gets to the point of, well, we are beyond scholarship now, it's pull up. Then, I mean, we all going to defend ourselves, but I'm not going to get on here and beef with you on air and make videos talking about, if it's going to pop off, then when we see each other, it's just going to pop off. Right. But I'm not going to get on air and do that and make videos and F your mother and I'll kill your kids, and that stuff is just savage and backwards and shows that these people are masking their mental illness with the appearance of the semblance of being intellectuals and intelligent.
But with no civilization. So real quick, let's kind of get to world news right quick. What are your thoughts on the media trying to twist the minister's words and basically saying that he tried to lead a death chant, chant talking about death to America. What are your thoughts on that?
I didn't see that yet, so I can't speak on it. And I've been trying to find like at least some video of it, and I haven't been able to find what the media is referencing. Right. I seen a press conference where Farrakhan addressed that, but I can't really give any feedback on it until I see what the media is referencing. But let me say, the media is going to always have it out for brothers like Minister Louis Farrakhan, because he represents a voice of the voiceless. I always say, because I have political aspirations out myself, and I pray that one day that my personal star, if you will, and that the platform that I want us to build Moorishly and Islamically and us as a people, whether you still call yourself black or not, gets to the point where I can sit in front of a Sean Hannity as some sort of candidate, and they ask me, well, we see that you honor Louis Farrakhan as one of your heroes after he has said a lot of anti-Semitic things and yada, yada, yada. Will you denounce him right here on your show so I could fix my fez up and straighten my tie up and say, I will never denounce Louis Farrakhan for you or anybody else. For that man, I've disagreed with him at times on certain things, has been a voice for the voiceless in our community and has educated me, or as we say in the hood, put me on to so many things that I was unaware of growing up. So I will never denounce him for you or anybody else, anybody. So even with the whole thing with the Jews, and they said he was being an anti-Semite, I'll go back and analyze stuff. I'm going to call it down the middle. That's one thing about me. I love Louis Farrakhan, but if he's wrong about something, I'm going to say he's wrong. Point blank, period. Right. My fidelity is to the truth first. If Noble Drew Ali put something in anywhere that was wrong, I'll be the first one to tell you, oh, that's wrong. Right. I did the research on that, and that's wrong. Right. So I say that to say the media wouldn't. I went on Twitter, and I was tagging those talking heads like Jake Tapper from CNN. Why don't you do like Chris Wallace did and be a bold journalist and sit Farrakhan down in front of you and have a one-on-one?
Right, that's right.
They won't do that. Right. They will not do that because Farrakhan, as my favorite terminology, he'll cook them right where they sit. Right. It is what it is.
Yeah, he had a media blackout because they condemned him in Congress, you know, and Donald Trump won't even mention his name, man. Why Donald Trump none of the presidents will even mention Minister Farrakhan. So what are your thoughts on Donald Trump and his presidency, and you know what I mean, during his presidential run?
Let me say, I feel the way most of America feels about Donald Trump. But I throw this caveat in there. I've learned more from Trump's presidency than I've learned from Obama's. I've learned way more.
Please explain why.
Well, the limits of power is based on, just like I was speaking about denouncing Farrakhan, etc. Right. Obama didn't have to denounce Farrakhan, but in order to get elected, he had to. Right. We live in a time now, you don't got to denounce Farrakhan. Trump has made that possible. We got to thank this man for some things too. Trump, you got racists that are getting elected. This dude Kemp took a picture with the man that had a t-shirt on that said Brian Kemp, who just ran against Stacey Abrams in Georgia, who has said something like, I hate Muslims, or Allah is not my God and I hate Muslims, or some crazy mess.
Wow.
Proudly,
wow.
These racists are taking pictures and being endorsed by fascist Europeans in this nation.
Right.
And they're getting elected. So why can't I accept an endorsement from Farrakhan? Why can't I love my brother?
Right.
Why?
Right.
We live in a time where I can proudly embrace Farrakhan. Had I come, if I was campaigning and running for president, I'd go to Chicago and have Farrakhan on the stage with me.
That's right. That's right.
So, yeah, but that's what I've learned from the Trump presidency. Well, that's one of the things.
Right.
And to me, it's one of the most important things. These people are saying we're not gonna not stand on our principles anymore. Right. We're tired of being politically correct. We want to call a nigger, a Jew a kike, Arab a sand nigger. I don't even use these terminologies.
Right.
So it's,
well, you just exposed
you know,
what they think.
I'm speaking blunt right now. I'm just being very blunt right now. And I don't use those words at all.
Well, the Honorable Minister Farrakhan said that we're not living in a time where we should be politically correct. And we're not living in a time of diplomacy.
Well, we as Muslims, we must know this. Our political correctness is intertwined with the moral fiber that Islam weaves into us.
Right.
So, well, we're going to call it how we see it, though.
Right. Right.
We're going to call it how we see it.
That part. So let me ask you this: What are your thoughts? What are your thoughts of separation from white America and creating our own nation as a people?
We are, in a sense, already separated from quote-unquote white America. In most of our neighborhoods, you're going to see our faces. And you're going to see some, well, at least in New York, you're going to see some Puerto Ricans, a couple Mexicans. Other places, you're going to see more Mexicans than Puerto Ricans. We already are separate. Nationhood, or being a nation, is not necessarily tied into territoriality. Nation is also determined by your historic continuity. That is why Noble Drew Ali coming and giving us or bringing back rather our identity as Moors, who were descendants of the ancient Moabites, is vitally critical, and in my belief, of us moving forward as a people. But if there's a thing called expatriation, and at any time that we feel dissatisfied with America, we can simply expatriate and go to another country. Probably no. Let me read Noble Drew Ali's words, because people, they don't understand our Americanism. And they say, well, why do you want to stay amongst them? What do you mean stay amongst the white men? Y'all getting it twisted. Let me read Prophet Noble Drew Ali's words.
Break it down for us.
He says, this is chapter 48, verse 6. We, as a clean and pure nation, descended from the inhabitants of Africa, not desire to amalgamate or marry into the families of the pale-skinned nations of Europe. Neither serve the gods of their religion, because our forefathers are the true and divine founders of the first religious creed for the redemption and salvation of mankind on earth. Therefore, we are returning the church and Christianity back to the European nations, as it was prepared by their forefathers for their earthly salvation. While we, the Moorish Americans, are returning to Islam, which was founded by our forefathers for our earthly and divine salvation. So Prophet Noble Drew Ali is saying right here, we do not desire to marry or amalgamate with the pale-skinned nations of Europe, nor serve the gods of their religion. And we're returning their religion back to them while we are returning to the religion that was founded by our ancestry. It doesn't change. It doesn't change the dynamic that we all live here in America. You have Moorish Americans, you have Italian Americans, you have Chinese Americans, you have Liberian Americans, and I can just keep going on and on and on and on. And this is what Prophet Noble Drew Ali was trying to get us to see. Just like they have a Chinatown, we can have a little Moab or I want to come up with the name of a city called New Andalus, you know. So
right.
Yeah, it's time for us, you know, it's time for us. My bad, I just got a message that I just looked at real quick.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, it's time for us to start to really look into, in the early, from the, one thing that a lot of people don't know, from the 1930s, with the inception of the Nation of Islam, and they were called, I think it was a lost temple. I believe it was called the lost temple. Until about 1951, the Nation of Islam used the teachings of the Moorish Science Temple of America. They just X'd out the name Moorish Science Temple of America and Noble Drew Ali. A lot of people don't know this, but a scholar, academic by the
No, I said I'm familiar with the history.
Definitely. So I think it's now time, because I'm going to be honest, I have issues with a lot of the historical information that the Nation of Islam teaches. I believe
but I think that there's always going to be differences until, like I said, till brothers from MSTA, I'm talking about the historians, or the, you know what I'm saying, the people who know the history, sit down with the Nation of Islam, the historians, the people who know the history, and we come together, because it's always going to be a debate between us based on the history, because we have some individuals who say, well, Noble Drew Ali taught Master Fard Muhammad, and vice versa. You know what I mean? These are the conversations that are out there, and
none of that stuff is true.
Huh?
Yeah, none of that stuff is true.
But that's what I'm saying. These are the dialogues that people are having. So, but I'm just saying that for us to get the history right, we gotta come together.
Definitely. Beloved, my time is dwindling. I do have room for one more question. I gotta get up 5:25 in the morning.
Okay.
And start my thing. If you had one more question that you felt that was
Yeah, I got one more question there, brother. And also, I thank you and all of the viewers for tapping in, coming on this platform, leaving a comment, liking or whatever, sharing this video. And I thank you all and I appreciate you all. This final comment, dear brother, is what are your thoughts of our ancestors who paved the way for us?
I mean, we are taught in the Moorish science about the covenant with us and the great God Allah, which says, honor thy father and thy mother, that thy days may be long upon the earth land that thy Lord God Allah have given thee. So, and so long as we honor our father and our mothers, whether it's 6,000 years ago or 60 years ago, then we believe that we will have longevity on into the future. And it's organizations like ours that keep this honor going. I pulled up with a brother today who had a kufi on out here in my part of Georgia. And I asked him, was he Muslim? And he was like, yes. And we got the building. And I said, do you know about the Moors? Noble Drew Ali. He was like, no, I'm not familiar. I said, you haven't heard about the Moors? Moors going into Europe or the Moorish Science Temple of America here? And he was like, no, I'm not familiar with that. But he knew, he knew about everything else except the history that made him. That we teach that Islam was founded by the Moors because it was founded by quote unquote black people. I remember Wesley Muhammad, Dr. Wesley Muhammad, put up a pod, always try to use, I've met the brother on several occasions. We had several conversations, so I'll just call him Wesley Muhammad, but formerly Dr. Wesley Muhammad. I remember him putting up a post on Facebook that got very controversial where he said something to the effect, yeah, Prophet Muhammad was a Moor. Yeah, I said it.
Yeah, I mean, I heard him say that, and he got some backlash for that too.
Yeah. So, like, these were the Moors, and yet we don't know our history. And in this, we are not honoring our mothers and our fathers, our forefathers, these people that paved the way for us. And the way to do that now, I'm still a member of the Moorish Science Temple of America. Many people believe I've relinquished my membership. I haven't, but we're putting together something called the Moorish Society, where I plan on melding a lot of these different groups of our forefathers into one platform. So we'll have the lessons of like the way the 5%ers did it, but it'll be based on what we have insofar as like real history, right. 360 questions and answers. We will have the platform for cleaning our sisters up as the Nation of Islam has with its MGT and GCC. Right. We will have our own paramilitary as the Nation of Islam has in the Fruit of Islam. But like the Jehovah's Witnesses, we'll have missionaries that will go knocking door to door and spreading the news of what it is that we teach. Like Father Divine also, he wasn't just a religious man, he was also into politics. And if anybody know the history of Father Divine, he had them European politicians kissing his butt. Right. Because he had built up a voting bloc. Many say that he patterned after Prophet Noble Drew Ali, which segues me back to the Prophet and why I'm doing what I'm doing, why I'm here where I'm at right now. So when we start to merge all of these different things and we understand what Prophet Noble Drew Ali meant by divine and national, divine meaning our religious aspects, which works on our individual spirituality, because that's all religion is. People recently have tried to separate spirituality from religion, and you cannot. And the divine, the national aspect of it is where we get involved with politics, where we're not just voting people into office that represent our interests. We ourselves are running, as we see two women who were just elected to congressional seats that are Muslims over the past week since election time. It's time for us to step up. This is how we honor our more recent and our ancient ancestors.
Beautiful answer, dear brother. Thank you, dear brother, so much. And to the viewers, go ahead and press that like button, that subscribe button, and that share button. And also, dear brother, Lord Abba, would you like to share with the viewers your social media platform so they know where to follow you and stuff like that?
Yes, my Facebook page is Naheem Wayel. You spell Naheem Nyhiem, Way Wayel. My Instagram page is Lord_Abba_Naheem. As soon as you punch in Lord Abba, you're gonna see me. It's probably gonna be a list, but you'll be able to see me from everybody else. And on Twitter, follow me at Real More.
Okay, yes, sir. So with that, dear family, I would like to end this video thanking you all and greet you all as I came with the greeting words of peace of Assalamu Alaikum.
Walaikum assalam. Peace.
Peace.